I'm Sydney.
And I'm Julie.
And this is Restaurant and Retail Revelations. This is episode 36 of Restaurant and Retail Revelations, a podcast that spotlights movers and shakers in the hospitality industry. This podcast is made possible by Revel Systems, provider of the leading cloud-native POS platform on the market.
And for today's guest, we're joined by Juan Reyes, Director of Marketing and Brand Development at Pizza Patrón.
That's right. Pizza Patrón is a Latin-inspired pizza chain started in the 80s that has undergone some major brand transformation since its founding. And as a bonus, the brand is one of our longstanding Revel clients.
Yeah, I'm excited to learn more from Juan about what it means to be a Latin-inspired pizza concept and also to hear how the brand's evolved with the shifting marketplace and consumer expectations. So let's jump in. Here's Juan.
Juan, welcome to the Restaurant and Retail Revelations podcast. We are so excited to talk with you today and to learn even more about Pizza Patrón.
Yeah, well, thank you, Sydney, for inviting me on, and I'm glad to share anything I can about Pizza Patrón.
So to give our listeners some context, especially if they don't live near any of your 80 plus restaurant locations, will you just share a bit about Pizza Patrón's origin story and what makes the brand unique?
Oh, yeah. I think we probably have one of the more unique stories, and I'm pretty sure, every brand out there feels that way. But to tell our story, I have to start with the founder of the company, Antonio Suad. And I don't know how much you know about Antonio Suad or even our listeners, but this individual also started Wingstop. So he gave birth to Wingstop and Pizza Patrón, and I was like, what are we doing talking about Wingstop in a topic about Pizza Patrón? Because they're so connected. So he started Pizza Patrón back in 1986 in Dallas, Texas, and he saved all the money that he could, and he said, I can afford this place. This lease I can afford. He opened the place, and very quickly he realized that he opened it in a very Latino community. So he quickly pivoted, like this is within a couple of weeks of opening. He changed the name. The original name was Pizza, and he changed it to Pizza Patrón. And he hired bilingual staff, right, for the front of the house. And boom, Pizza Patrón was born. And that gave him a focus that he didn't necessarily have when he opened that restaurant. And very quickly, it became a community favorite. He went on to open 4 additional restaurants within Dallas, Texas. And I was very fortunate growing up that I was exposed to the brand before it became what it is now. We start franchising in 2003. And around this time, right, I'm in my early 20s. I'm walking into the restaurants and I start seeing differences in the restaurant. I'm like, went from a very mom and pop charm, a white box, simple logo, still said Pizza Patrón. Now there's some branding elements on these walls, right? There's a mural and you see decor that is inspired by Mexico, and it's like, oh, this is really awesome. And at that point in my career, right, I studied graphic design and marketing. I was like, this is a really cool company. I like their vibe. Roll on to 2007. I walk into one of the restaurants because I'm ordering pizza. And I have my kids with me. Thankfully, my kids wanted pizza that day. Because I walk in and there's a sign that they're hiring for graphic design and marketing, right? And come to find out later, because I think I could do this and I like this company. So I go out, I interview, come back for a second interview. They give me the job, right? And, I'm really excited to work for this company. And I come to find out the reason they took this approach was because they wanted to tap into the community. And kind of like you're gathering now, Pizza Patrón was very Latino focused during this time period. So they wanted somebody who was from these neighborhoods, who was bilingual, who understood both cultures. And, that's the beautiful thing about the concept that, we brought something very unique to the pizza game, right? It wasn't just, hey, pepperoni. We have all the classics. Everybody loves the classic Supreme, right? The meats, but we brought a little twist to it, right? We brought some Latino flair to these products. And I get very excited talking about this story because not only is the founder, Antonio Suad, with his blue collar effort and his incredible imagination, but that is what attracted me to it. But just the way they went about hiring folks, right? And really being about the community. Fast forward, he sells Pizza Patrón in 2016. And the current owners, Charles and Chris, they were both franchisees of Pizza Patrón. Charles Laughlin, he was also a franchisee for Wingstop. And in fact, we're the biggest Wingstop franchisee in the system, just to give you a sense of the scope and scale that we're working on now. So Charles and Chris, right, they see Pizza Patrón, they love Pizza Patrón, they find out it's on the market, and come full circle, the first franchisee for Wingstop and Pizza Patrón now is the owner, right, of Pizza Patrón. He's the franchisor, and there's no better, I think, story for us than having an operator who truly knows all the positions in the restaurant, now be at the helm in the leadership role for the brand and just kind of see it forward. So for me, and as I mentioned earlier, when I decided during that transition, it's like, what, I want to stay committed to the brand. I want to see, this thing grow beyond where we're at now. And Charles and Chris, but the new owners are the individuals that can take us there. So, kind of summarize it really quickly, but I just love sharing that story. I do a lot of these brand orientations with the new stores and the new teams. So, and usually we have all these wonderful visuals while we're telling this story. But thank you for allowing me that much time to just talk about that little piece of our history.
No, what a cool founder story. And I also love that the community really played such a huge role in developing the early days of the brand identity. I love that. You don't always see that. And, you shared a little bit more about your background, how you came in, you walked right into the brick and mortar store and got your start at Pizza Patrón. But to get a little bit more personal for a moment, your role is Director of Marketing and Development at Pizza Patrón today. And I'm curious to know what that entails for you day to day, and how do you support the brand?
Yeah, so today we do work with an agency now. We're very fortunate to have developed to that point. They're a local agency to us here in San Antonio, Texas. So we develop all the creative, all the campaign, all the strategy, the production through our agency. But we do retain some elements in-house. We do have a very small marketing team that I do oversee here in-house. So, we develop our national campaign. When I say national, because we do have restaurants out in the Phoenix and Arizona market, right, that trickles down to our smaller markets. But it's very different from, when we started, when I started with the company, we were essentially the in-house agency. So I was very fortunate to wear many hats. So we were writing the scripts in-house. We were fighting the production companies in-house. We were doing the media buys in-house. And I think this harkens back to, really connects to, the founder and even our current owners. Really, we were always kind of a blue collar approach to everything that we did. We ran very lean in terms of the staff that we had. And that's the way we liked it, because we whiteboarded an idea and it was like, all right, let's get to it. Let's start writing the script. Let's start writing the storyboard. Let's start working on the media buy. And I talk about that more than today, because we were able to take action immediately and also see those results just as quickly, compared to today where, we're planning 18 months, 24 months, and that's necessary for a brand that's evolving and maturing like we are, but I'm certainly, I get very excited just talking about those days, right, where it was just, just 2 or 3 of us just whiteboarding ideas and putting them out there and executing.
Yeah, I really love that. I mean, it's so cool to have those really hands-on projects and to see your thumbprint translate into things that end up making it into the market and bringing folks in. And I really also love that in spite of the scaling, and you have to scale if growth is in the plan, you've got to be able to figure out how you can make that happen with a greater number of locations. Something that I have definitely heard is that in spite of the evolution of the brand, that kind of introductory story, the origin story, and of course the Latin influence has really stayed. And I know your menu is one of the components that continues to set Pizza Patrón apart from the competitors out there. And so I just love to hear from you, maybe a menu highlight or two that kind of continue to make your product more distinct and popular offerings in your communities.
Yeah. I think we've all heard of like New York style pizza, Detroit style pizza, right? And like the Chicago style pizza. And one day I'd like to add another to that list, right? Like Latino style pizza or even San Antonio style pizza, and it means something, right? Because we all know when we say New York style pizza, what it means, or Detroit style. I think everybody has an idea. That is our goal, and that is a big point of difference for our brand and our company. How can we stand out, from the big four, the big five, and even in our own backyard, because everybody knows who they are. They're everywhere. Their budgets, are huge, and being 80 restaurants, we have to do things to kind of help us stand out while we still honor our roots and our core. And some of those products during COVID 2020, we launched a pizza called the carne asada pizza. And this was on a maíz crust or a corn crust. And this is a wonderful product because it didn't have marinara sauce. We use a salsa verde, right? It has poblano peppers, cilantro, fresh cut red onions, and carne asada or steak strips. And it's a fantastic product. And it did so well when it launched, and we initially had it planned like for March of 2020. We ended up delaying it. Obviously, the pandemic, during that time period was at its peak. But we decided to move forward with it because there were so many things that had already been produced, and this is the product that we launched. So that's one of the products that I think really helps our menu stand out, and one of the actions that we've taken here recently to help consumers who maybe are not familiar with Pizza Patrón, who might have a perception that it's like, oh, other food is spicy or other food is different. We want to clarify for our new guests coming in that, we have the classics and we have the Latin inspired pizzas, right? So if you have a hankering for a classic pizza, right, with that wonderful marinara sauce, pepperoni, or supreme, we have that as well. Or you have something, you want to explore a little bit or feel a little adventurous. We have a Latin inspired category as well beyond that carne asada pizza. Another pizza, just to give you another example, is we call it the Diablo pizza. It's spicy, right? So that marinara sauce, it's a spicy sauce. It's got fresh cut jalapenos on it. It's got cheddar cheese and pepperoni. So we bring in some traditional elements. And this was actually released a couple years ago around Halloween, right? It was a kind of a theme pizza. These are the kind of the little things, little quirky things that we do to kind of try to help us stand out and really just people remember us as like, oh yeah, I remember those guys. Yeah, they had that cool pizza, right? It was spicy, but it was really cool. And they had an awesome name and they had an awesome personality. So you'll often see our pizzas kind of develop their own personality. And we personify that through the naming convention that we have of our pies. If you were to look down our menu, you see pizzas like, called La Mexicana, which kind of give you a sense of the style of the pizza, right? You'll probably expect it to be a little spicy, or even we take conventional pizzas or traditional pizzas that are now traditional, like a Hawaiian pizza. And, we call it the Hawaiiana, and, or even our veggie pizza, right? We call it the vegetariana, right? We use a Spanish term for it while still retaining enough elements so that, anyone feels comfortable ordering it and they understand by looking at the name, oh, this is probably a veggie pizza, right? So trying to broaden our appeal while still sharpening our focus.
Those are great examples of differentiators. And when I think about myself, as a pizza consumer, which I am often, I'm always seeking out those unique toppings and unique pies. And so I can really appreciate that. And, we've spoken to just how the brand has evolved since, its origins in the 1980s, and it's evolved quite a bit. And as someone who supports marketing and development like yourself, I know you definitely have a finger on the pulse of just how everything is evolving, from menu offerings to other branded touch points and so forth. What are some of the most significant shifts you've seen to date on your team or just within the brand as a whole?
Yeah, so one of the things that Charles and Chris, the new owners, wanted to do was, and I'll go back to the phrase I used, broaden the appeal. One of the founders' original goal was to make Pizza Patrón, really a premier Latin brand. And it's got pros and cons to it because not everyone's gonna have a natural affinity for a Latino style pizza. And what does that even mean? That may throw a lot of people off. So we wanted to broaden our appeal so that we can, take our brand and our concept and really say, hey, look, we want to be able to open our restaurant in any neighborhood and, still feel accessible to everyone from all economic levels, from all demographics, rather than, feeling exclusively Latino. And so we did some brand studies to help us really understand perception of the brand when Charles and Chris purchased the company. Kind of that was the takeaway. It's like, okay, we have to modernize our marketing and our approach and how people perceive some of these actions and some of these naming conventions. Some, maybe just make it more appealing, more accessible. So that's kind of the biggest shift that we've seen from consumers who know us and consumers who do not know us, and how we make ourselves a bit more accessible. So those are some of the slight tweaks that we've made to the company and the brand. Kind of like I mentioned earlier, right? We took the action of categorizing our pizzas to make it easier for non-users, people who don't know us or not familiar with Patron, making it easier to understand our menu, right? That if you still want a classic flavor, hey, we have that. If you want to explore, we have the Latin-inspired flavors for you. I think that's really a big shift from a perception standpoint, and from the way guests behave in order. I think obviously the pandemic had a huge impact on that. One of the things about Pizza Patrón, we for the longest, we try to keep our approach very simple, really for the purpose of allowing our operators to focus on execution. So give you an example of what I mean is, we only had one size of pizza. We were very late entries into online ordering. We did not have delivery before the ownership change. So all of those were immediate actions that we wanted to implement. Delivery, online ordering, developing and having a loyalty app. So those were things that were just on the cusp of launching when the pandemic occurred. And really, thankfully they were, because they were set to launch actually right in that second quarter of 2020. And they did launch, and they really allowed us to, I think, take advantage of that immediate shift that occurred, where people, either were stuck at home or obviously were not going out and dining in the way they were. Online ordering, increased tremendously during that time period. Delivery was huge for us. We partnered with third-party delivery companies, and I really saw immediate success there. So I think those were some of the huge shifts that we've seen over the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. And as a fellow marketer, I think a brand's adaptability is honestly the true marker of long-term staying power. And something that I love about Pizza Patrón in particular is that you guys are actually one of our amazing clients for Revel. So not just that, you're actually one of our longest standing clients. And so in a sense, you could say that Revel and Pizza Patrón have grown and adapted together. And I just love your perspective. I think you started to get into that with some of the pandemic aligned changes, but your perspective on how technology plays into that ability to scale and continuously offer a great experience to your customers.
Oh yeah, and you're absolutely right. I remember when Revel came on board. I think this was 2012, because I remember the specific store, and I was so excited because when I joined the company, one of the first questions and again, when I joined the company, I was very familiar with Pizza Patrón. I knew all the pizzas, right? I knew all the price points. So when I joined the company that first week, and again, there was like 5 of us. Okay, so there wasn't a lot of us. So when we had meetings, it was all hands on deck. It was 5 of us, and I asked the question openly, like what's our best selling pizza? It was like, I'm like, I bet it's the Hawaiiana. I bet it's that pizza. And no one could answer the question there. I had this blank stare on their face because nobody knew. We did not know in 2007. We could not quantify what was our best. We didn't have a product mix. We had a good idea of what was our best selling pizza. So I gave you all these awesome pizza names and these categories that we had no idea which was the best selling. And I was just shocked. Here I was, right, walking in, I'm the new guy. And it's like, why are you asking this? Why are you trying to embarrass us? So I was so excited in 2012 when, obviously we shopped, right? You brought in all the candidates and, Revel won out. And I was so excited because I was like, we're finally going to know without a shadow of a doubt what our best selling pizza is. Now we'll have real information to make better decisions, for the future. And we've learned so much throughout this time, as more and more stores onboarded onto the Revel platform and kind of unified pricing, and we're able to push pricing, fairly easily to our markets. It's been fantastic just to kind of see that. And as a marketer, right, these are some insights that you need versus just measuring as like, well, sales are up, so it's working. You want to know that your marketing efforts or that a promo or that a combo has a good hit rate. And we've been able to kind of track that thanks to Revel being implemented throughout most of our system.
Yeah, and that's a great segue into what I want to talk about next, which is just digging a little deeper into metrics and reporting capabilities, especially given just the general data centralization available to your team through Revel. So I have two questions for you. One being, what are some of the KPIs that you guys monitor most closely for your restaurants? What's really important to you guys? And then with that, can you share any specific cost savings or operational improvements that your team has had the chance to realize through using those insights?
Yeah, so I think obviously we all have, the core KPIs of sales and transactions, but I think one of the awesome things that we've been able to really understand at a micro level is by market, right? So now we're able to kind of segment by market and really look at the performance of a market or a core group of stores using those two KPIs, right? And rather than implement this one size fits all marketing approach, there was periods where we were able to tailor specific offers to specific regions and markets. We were able to deploy tests and measure those tests a little bit more effectively, without, again, applying a global approach from a specific promotion standpoint. And then I think another KPI that really Revel has allowed us to track is order modes, online ordering, call in to go, all of those order modes that we really didn't know or have a good sense of, how our traffic, how we were acquiring our traffic or through what channel, what order mode they were coming in. It's allowed us to really understand and kind of break out, those transactions and that ticket average and overall sales. It's like, how is the performance different when it's to go, when it's online, and or when it's a call-in or even a drive-through order.
And so the knowledge of that is so incredibly important. And I think, even the coolest concepts are susceptible to macro environmental challenges, things like inflation, labor shortages, supply chain disruptions. And I know like the right data can help businesses respond accordingly to weather those storms. So another thing that we've really been fortunate to see is just a sustained appetite post-pandemic for dining out. And I think brands doing things right remember to thank their guests for visiting, which brings me to Patrón Perks, which is your team's rewards program. So I'm curious just to know how the program works, how many guests are enrolled in it right now, and what types of opportunities the program has allowed you to explore as a brand.
Yeah, so I think our enrollment is up to about 160,000 users, part of our loyalty database. So we're really excited about that because obviously it allows for one-to-one communication, whether it's a push notification or an email. And we've had two different loyalty partners. We recently transitioned, and both of them were integrated with Revel, which made things a little bit easier in terms of deployment. So it's been a learning curve for us because, as I mentioned to you, we're fairly new and we're fairly, I think, we're playing catch up. with some of our competitors in terms of implementation of loyalty, delivery, online ordering, whereas some of our competitors, have been in this arena, this technology arena for 20 plus years. We're 3 to 4 years in. So loyalty was huge for us. It allowed us to, really capture some of our fans' usage patterns, some of the information that we just did not know, meaning frequency, how often were they visiting us, kind of average spend, what do they like, what were they purchasing. So we're really able to micro down into their behavior and really understand. It's like, okay, now we really know what our super users, our super fans are really, coming to us for. What are they actually buying? And now we know exactly what those items are. And when you add that to just the general PMix, it gives us kind of, this is the gap we have to close, right? This is the behavior of a non-loyalty user. This is the behavior of a loyalty user. So now from a marketing standpoint, right, how do we close that gap? How do we get this non-user to behave like a loyalty user, right? What are those key insights, right, that we're learning and that we can use to attract non-loyalty users? How can we make things easier for them? So it's certainly been a transition for us, and I think we're learning and getting better. But hopefully by the end of this year, we're upwards of like 250,000 users. We do have a planned revamp on the Patron perks later on this year.
That's great. Yeah, you got to follow those super fans. I think, their actions and what they're doing, you can, pull a lot out of that. And, Sydney and I are people that are always reading the trade publications in our industry. And we love seeing Pizza Patrón make headlines. It happens, quite often, new store openings, developments, all that good stuff. What's on the horizon for your team, Juan? And are there any milestones, events, or maybe promotions that our listeners might want to tune into?
Yeah, so right now, to start this year, I don't know how familiar you guys are with tahine, but tahine is it's a seasoning, a spicy seasoning with lemon flavor and pepper, and it's fantastic. It's awesome. So we were very fortunate to partner with tahine to launch our new tahine wings. So this is actually going on right now, right? These are one of a kind, and it just kind of fits our brand, right? Tahine obviously being a Mexican brand and a Mexican company. They've made tremendous inroads here in the U.S. So we're partnered with them right now. We launched a tahine wing combo. And when you purchase this tahine wings combo, you get a mini bottle of tahine. It's very small. When people see it, my wife is like, "Oh, it's so cute, right? Look at that mini bottle." She got all excited. So this is one of the our core marketing campaigns right now to start the year. And later on in the year, like I said, I remember we only had one size, right? Eventually, we added an extra large size. But along with that, and only recently did we develop a second crust, which is the maize crust. But we did not have a thin crust. And, you guys love pizza, right? And sometimes you just want a thin crust, right? You just want a fantastic thin crust. So we never had one. And these are some of the insights that we've learned from our guests. So we're going to launch a new thin crust in the second quarter. Actually, no, next month. I forget. We're started the year. We're actually launching it next month, a new thin crust pizza. And we're so excited to get it out there because that's one of the very vocal things that we heard from our fans, that is, you guys don't have thin crust. It's like, I just want a little bit less bread on my pizza. I love your crust, but sometimes I just want a thin crust pizza so I could really have more of it. And so they're pretty excited about that. That's right on the horizon. And that'll be starting next month.
Man, good data really gives you so many different options to play and adjust. I love the tahine coming, promotion. I'm a little envious that I don't live closer to take advantage because that sounds fantastic. And, I am curious, since you've had access to more data, and since you guys have also started really deploying different options for drive-through delivery, carry out, those kinds of things, have you seen any of those channels emerge as the best performer compared to others?
Yeah, I mean, online ordering is still growing. During the pandemic, we weren't sure if it was obviously, pandemic induced as far as that channel just seeing an explosion in growth. Paired that with delivery getting started, and then you stack loyalty on there. So that channel just grew tremendously. And, but to this day, it continues to grow. We continue to see a shift from carry out to go traditional orders over to the online ordering channel. It's amazing to see behaviors within the PMIX as far as what people are purchasing online versus what they're purchasing when they walk into the restaurant. It's significantly different from a ticket average perspective. And sometimes it's just a matter of those needs. So that's been very, very clear. So one of the actions that we're actually going to take as a result of really kind of understanding that data and gaining those insights is that we don't necessarily want to abandon our carry out and to go guests. We want to continue to give them offers, right, and reasons to come into our restaurant. We don't want to just cannibalize and continually see our to-go traffic go over to online ordering, which there's no problem with that because they're obviously spending more money. But, if that decline in to-go order mode is greater than the gains that we're making on the online channel, we have to give those folks a reason to come and visit us. We have to provide some sort of an incentive. It doesn't necessarily have to be, a significant discount, but, a classic tried and true, marketing approach is, having the early week special. So that's actually something that we're crafting as we speak. And I've been pretty busy on Revel these last couple of weeks, just kind of mining that information and trying to understand, okay, from Monday to Thursday, what is the behavior? What is that ticket average? What are they buying on these days that's so different from the weekend? So that, again, we don't cannibalize. We don't want to just take a visit from the weekend and move it up to a Monday to Thursday window. How do we attract more users that are in the market from a Monday to Thursday occasion? And that's something that I think we've really gained a lot of good data from Revel, understanding those behaviors, looking at that ticket average, looking at that PMIX.
I love it. Well, Juan, this is the part where we ask you to keep us honest and just see if there's anything that we haven't covered today, anything between a Tajin special and ticket averages and driving traffic that you feel like would be important that we touch on before we close things out.
I think we covered a lot. And I really want to thank you guys so much for all of the time that you've given me. If you gave me more time, I would talk about the brand and the history forever because I love the brand. And we truly feel that our fans feel the same way in terms of kind of the affinity that they have for who we are and what we stand for. We want to continue to grow, and we're partners like Revel. I think we can certainly continue to do that. And, one of the things we like to say around here is we have to broaden the appeal and sharpen the focus, and I think we're certainly making inroads to doing that, opening new restaurants, opening different type of restaurants. We're exploring, looking at standalones, drive-through is another big thing for us right now. So we're hungry, we're growing, and we certainly want to thank you guys for the time to kind of speak on the brand and the history.
Yeah, it sounds like we might need a part 2 sometime. So, Juan, thank you so much for offering so much of your expertise today, not only as a marketer, but also someone that's just deeply ingrained with the brand. We really appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Sydney, Julie, thank you so much.
Between the maize crust and the tomatillo sauce, I am completely on board with San Antonio style pizza. If anyone can make that a household staple, I think it's Pizza Patrón.
I agree. How delicious. And what a cool opportunity for Juan, too, to join the team so early and so organically, and then have the chance to grow it to the multi-unit brand it is today.
Absolutely. And to our listeners, we hope you're hungry and that you learned a thing or two about brand evolution done right. As always, we are incredibly grateful for your time and attention.
This is true. And to conclude this episode, here's a final thank you to Juan for his insights as well. If you enjoyed what you heard today, make sure you like and subscribe to Restaurant and Retail Revelations on Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever you get your podcasts so that you never miss new content.